Hi.
Yo, sick intro. We're ready.
Yo, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Cool Comic Show. My name is... God, I don't know my name.
Galactic Mr. E, a.k.a. Mr. E, a.k.a. Easy E, a.k.a. E.
All right. And I am joined by my co-host.
My co-host. Shout out. That's me.
Yes. My co-host HG Damien. So we are doing our regular show. I know you've been tuning into our recaps and reviews, and we wanted to say thank you for all the views on these Moon Knight and the Young Justice videos. And now we're going to hop into some of the latest news that has come out in the past few weeks since our last show. The first of which is Umbrella Academy Season 3 has officially announced its release date, which will be this June. I am really looking forward to it. I am a big fan of the Umbrella Academy series. I have not caught up on the graphic novels just as of yet, but I'm very interested to see where the series goes. We also got our first look at Elliot Page playing Victor Hargreaves, so that was pretty solid as well. I'm curious to see how they're going to spin the Umbrella Academy versus Sparrow Academy. If you've been keeping track of all the releases of the posters lately, you've gotten a good look at the Sparrow Academy as well. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting season. For those who don't know where the show left off, the Hargreaves came back to what they thought was their original timeline, and it turns out that their father replaced them all. So they are in an alternate timeline. Mr. Hargreaves has found different children. So we're going to find out what all their new powers are. And I'm sure it's going to be hilarious as always. Damien, what else do we have to look forward to coming this summer?
So just before we get off Umbrella Academy, I wanted to mention too, like, Season 2 came out, what, 2019? Was it?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Everything feels like so long ago when it came out.
But
yeah, Umbrella Academy Season 2, I loved it. I thought it was a lot of cool things that happened. That were like, I think Season 1 came out right around that time when a bunch of like comic book shows were coming out. And obviously not all of them had made it this far, but I think Umbrella Academy has a strong foundation with the source material, but it has a strong concept in how they adapted to TV and everything. So, yeah, I enjoy it.
Mary J. Blige in Season 1.
Oh,
let's
yeah.
go. Auntie Mary, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm a huge fan of the series. It's one of those... It's a superhero show, but like there's a lot more going on. And I feel like people who are not particularly fans of comics can still find something to enjoy in this series.
I think
and
most
that's why
everyone
I like it.
enjoys the show that I've like I know has watched it. And I mean, I don't know anything about the comics either, and I enjoyed it. So. Yeah.
All right, Umbrella Academy isn't the only much anticipated show to drop news recently. Damien, what's the word on it?
So if you guys remember when Invincible Season 1 ended, that one came out in 2020? 2021? 2020?
It might have been 2021. Hold on.
God, I feel like the last 2 years, time hasn't been real, you know? Nothing.
Honestly.
But yeah, when Season 1 ended, I think right before maybe the last episode of the season, they confirmed Season 2 and 3 like pretty quickly, and it was super hype. So we got some news. It looks like back on April 15th, Steven, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I don't want to do it incorrectly. Steven Yeun. He had a quick little social media post that he was recording his lines for Season 2, which, if you guys aren't following the Invincible Twitter, by the way, you guys should. They're very funny on there. But they posted immediately after like that meme of I think it's like that guy. It's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's like has a board up trying to figure everything out, and they wrote I pulled it up here. They wrote Invincible fans trying to figure out when this video was filmed, what it means for Season 2 release date, and how Damien Darkblood is doing. So yeah, I don't know the process of production of like when a voice line needs to get recorded up until when it gets released. And yeah, we don't know when this video was actually filmed. But yeah, Invincible season 2 coming soon at some point. It is on Amazon, which also has The Boys, and I think Amazon has 2 great properties that they're doing, like for adult-oriented comic book shows.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for The Boys.
Yeah, but that's all we have for season 2. Like they didn't really announce more than that.
Yeah.
I would assume, I'm just thinking about conventions and everything, since the conventions are coming back. Like PAX East is actually happening right now. I think New York Comic Con is towards the end of summer. Obviously, we have Comic Con here in San Diego in July. So maybe we'll get a trailer then, or maybe a release date, because that'll be 3 months from now. So
yeah, and plus I think The Boys will be out at that point. Or
that's true. Yeah,
starting at that point. So they'll probably start gearing up more news once The Boys starts releasing, so it doesn't get overshadowed. Which how can you overshadow The Boys? Honestly?
So that's Invincible. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But next up, time for some more DC news that we have going on.
Oh yeah, DC has been busy. First news, if you haven't found out by now, of course, The Batman has hit HBO Max.
Shout out this week.
This past Tuesday. So have you rewatched it since then?
I have not. I was thinking about doing it tonight, actually, or tomorrow. It is 3 hours. You got to commit.
That is true. That is 3 hours. Of
I
your
did,
life.
however, rewatch the first monologue. That monologue is so. I said this on Twitter the other day. I was responding to a friend who was rewatching it. Obviously, going into that movie, I was excited to watch it. But when that opening monologue started, I was like immediately hooked. I was like, "Yep, let's go!" Like this is it.
I was too, because like the way they brought him out of the shadows, like they kept cutting to these places, and you're like, "Oh, he's about to show
perfect.
up."
So
he didn't show up. Then he finally just casually strolls out the shadows. I was like, "Yo, that was top. That was top notch. That was
so good.
That was so good." Meanwhile, we have also had a deleted scene drop featuring the Joker since our last episode of the Cool Comics Show. Did you get a chance to watch the deleted scene?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it?
So I did watch it, and I think I mentioned this in our Batman review, which you haven't watched yet. Make sure you go ahead and I'll put the link in the description. Check out our Batman review. I am on the side of, I feel like Joker needs to give it a break for a while, at least given a break as the main villain. I'm fine with Joker being in the movie how he was in the Batman, where he's kind of just there. He's like obviously locked up already. I'm fine with that, but with him being a main character, I think we need a break from him, especially because we just had the Joker movie and everything like that. But I did watch a deleted scene. I thought the conversation was great. However, his look just kept distracting me. I think they were trying to go for like a half Arkham Games look and like half Heath Ledger, and it just, I think in live action it didn't work personally for me. But I like the conversation that they had. I thought that was cool.
I feel like I'm along the same lines. I do appreciate Barry. Is it Kogan? Sorry if I mispronounced that. Who we also recently saw in Marvel's The Eternals as well. But I think he did a good job acting. I just don't. I think I'm also a little fatigued of the Joker. Of course, it's the Joker. It's a phenomenal character. We love the Joker. Don't get us wrong, but it's the Batman fatigue. You know, DC has so many properties, and they keep telling the same story, these same characters over and over again, and it's just getting to a point where, like, please give us something else. And when I say give us something else, I don't mean Super Pets or or Bat Wheels.
You got Bat Wheels coming. Don't forget, it is coming.
I love the Joker, but I am so thankful, and I think that is why the Batman did as well as it did, is that they focused on other rogues. You get the Penguin, you get Riddler, and they get their moment to shine. And these are badass characters, but they always go for the Joker. So. While I do appreciate seeing the Joker in this universe, I am glad it was just a footnote on the movie. And if this series does continue, I I honestly hope he continues to be a footnote. Like,
He locked up.
I'm not saying get rid of the character completely.
Yeah.
Like, if he shows up in the second movie causing a little mayhem, excellent. That is what the Joker is known for. But I don't want him to be the main villain of the movie because Batman has so many other main villains. Like, yes, the Joker is his arch nemesis, but he has so many. He has so many. He has arch nemesis with literal armies behind them. So, like, I want to see complete chaos from a different point of view. I've seen enough of the Joker, you know?
I think I mentioned this in the Batman review video. I'm not, first of all, I'm not a well-written author. I can't write well at all. But if I was a writer on the Batman series, and DC, you can take this and give me a little bit of credit, maybe throw, a couple, give me some royalties along the way.
Just hire us.
But if they make, like we both said, I think he's used well and he's just like part of the universe, but he's not a main driving force of what's happening.
Exactly.
I think it'd be funny if like each movie starts with like just Batman catching Joker in some new crime, like that starts off like, hey, Joker's here, Batman caught him, put him back in jail.
Yeah.
That way you can still kind of have that effect of like Joker's always getting out, he's still causing some problems for Batman, but he's not going to be the main character of the story.
Yeah.
DC, hey, take it how you want. I'm not,
I'm not telling you how to do your job.
I'm not telling you to do your job.
but I agree to that. Or like, even if he does like cause mayhem for like a majority of the movie, I feel like pulling the rug out from under the Joker and being like, you're being manipulated by this other guy like Ra's al Ghul or someone of that nature. Like, I just feel like that would be a bigger statement. I feel like that would make for a more interesting plot than just Batman versus Joker, because we've seen that so many times,
So Batman is on HBO Max. Make sure you go check it out. If now that's 3 hours, might be easier for people to watch at home if you haven't gotten a chance to watch it.
And you can pause it and
very,
come back.
very good. You can pause it, you come back. Like we mentioned in the review, if you are interested in more background of these stories, read Long Halloween, read Batman Year One. Very, very good.
Yes.
But as some other HBO Max news, going with the trend of DC announcing everything, and we'll talk in a little bit about that. An Aqualad HBO series was announced. Now, if you haven't watched Young Justice, if you don't know anything about, Aqualad, because again, we want to make this show accessible to everyone. Aqualad was a character first introduced in Young Justice. His name was Calderon. He was another Atlantean. He was separate from the usual Aqualad that was in the comics, who was Garth, who was also introduced in Young Justice later on. But Calder was a very popular character, and so they ended up incorporating him into the comics. However, they changed some information. His name is Jackson Hyde now. He's a little bit different. He was a gay teenager living in New Mexico, and he kind of had that connection to the water, everything like that. So they are going to be adapting that to an HBO Max show. There is no writer currently attached to it, but it is going to be executive produced by Charlize Theron. So who knows? We don't know when this is going to come out. We don't know. We're going to get more information about it. It was just another one of those projects where HBO Max or DC was like, hey, here it is. But it seems to be the source material it's going to be based off of is called You Brought Me the Ocean. And that's by Alex Sanchez and art by Julie Moreau. So that's all we kind of have about that right now. I'm looking forward to it, though. I like Calder as a character. Obviously, Jackson is not exactly Calder, but I think having that type of character is great for the DC brand.
Yeah, I definitely am looking forward to it as well. Of course, I know him like I'm sure a lot of people know him initially from Young Justice, or this branch of Aqualad, I should say. But like you said, I think it's important to have characters like this, and I do commend DC on widening that branch, widening that reach, focusing on other characters. And yes, this is another iteration of Aqualad than we're used to in Young Justice, but I feel like we're still going to get a sense of that character in this series, even though not much is known about the series as of yet. I just feel like having this teen that's part of the LGBTQ community just kind of doing his thing, is important in itself. And if the graphic novel is any indication, I think it's going to be a wonderful story, of coming of age story. And I think that's going to be an interesting take, because, most of DC's properties, it's, the main guys, your Batman, your Superman, your Wonder Woman, but we don't get a lot of coming of age stories. And we kind of saw that in the Batman. Even though he's grown, it's only his second year as Batman, and that was
also still just Batman again.
Yeah, true. So I enjoy coming of age stories, and of course I can sort of relate with the backstory of the character being Black and LGBTQ as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Definitely.
Yeah, I hope we do get news of it, and it's not one of those projects that gets announced and it just sits there.
Pushed for 18 years. You know what? We'll see it before the Wonder Woman video game.
All right. But it is another one of those projects. I know we keep teasing it. We're going to get into it later in this video. With this Warner Brothers Discovery merger, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Another upcoming series, another one that was announced for HBO Max, is the Dead Boy Detectives.
That is correct. The Dead Boy Detectives. If you're wondering who the heck is that, you are not alone. Don't worry. Don't panic. Yes. So I myself was not familiar with the Dead Boy Detectives. It turns out they premiered in The Sandman number 25 back in April of 1991. I was not born yet.
91, 1 year before me.
Look, that was only a few months before me, but I was not there for their.
It was one BD before D.
Okay. All right, guy. But the Dead Boy Detectives are ghosts of two dead children, Charles Rowland and Edwin Payne, who, rather than enter the afterlife, stay on Earth to become detectives investigating crimes involving the supernatural. So we got a glimpse of these characters in the latest season of Doom Patrol. They were part of season 3 episode, I want to say...
It was like 4 or 5.
4. 4 or 5.
Quick side note, if you haven't watched Doom Patrol, please do yourself a favor and watch Doom Patrol. It is so fucking good.
It is trippy and amazing. And
it's so good.
You will find yourself laughing out loud at the randomest parts of that series.
My favorite episode is still the Danny the Street episode when Negative Man had that singing section. And hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. Normally, I'm not a fan of musicals or musical sections in shows, but they did it so well. Yeah. It had such a strong meaning in that episode and in the universe. And we are all misfits living in a world on fire. Just please watch it. It's on HBO Max. If you're international, I think I don't know if HBO Max is in your country or not. There's some alternative. Please watch Doom Patrol. It's 3 seasons. Very good.
Yes. But the Dead Boy Detectives, so we're actually, like I said, we did get a glimpse of them in season 3 of Doom Patrol. Yeah. But when you're watching, if you choose to watch this new series, don't expect to see any familiar faces because all of them have been recast. Which
they kind of did when Doom Patrol got its backdoor pilot in Titans.
I was just about to say.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I was like,
yeah, but so this is kind of the same thing like Damien said. The Doom Patrol actually premiered in Titans, and then when the Doom Patrol finally premiered itself, it wasn't in the same universe. They had recast Niles, and certain members of the Doom Patrol had kind of an attitude adjustment. From
different looks too.
True. And of course, Beast Boy was nowhere to be seen because he did not exist in this universe. And we didn't find out it was a new universe until the Crisis event with their CW shows. We got a glimpse of different universes. Which, quick
side note, it's funny you mentioned that. Last night, I don't know why, I was rewatching Crisis reactions on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? For the CW being what it was, right? I think the Crisis event was pretty good. I had a fun time watching that. I didn't watch the shows leading up to it.
I didn't either.
But I think given a CW budget, given a CW writing, the stuff that they tried to do, I was like, well, I don't know if we're ever going to get I mean, who knows if we're ever going to get Crisis in live action again? But
Yeah.
they tried. There was some good stuff in there.
It was better than what they said was the Flashpoint. I will say that.
But it's just funny you mentioned that because like literally last night I was watching Crisis stuff.
But yeah, so I don't know. This is one of those where I'm probably going to tune in because it is a DC property and I want to, give it a chance. But like I said, going into it, I don't really know anything about the Dead Boy Detectives, but I am curious to see what they do with it. And I was curious about their characters. I remember when the episode actually aired of that Doom Patrol episode, I did Google to see if it was like a backdoor pilot. There was no news at that time, but it does turn out they are going to create a show. But we do have Jaden Reverie, who will be playing Charles Rowland, and a newcomer to acting, George Rexdrew, debuting on screen as Edward Payne. And they will be joined by Cassius Nelson. I hope I am saying that correctly. Who will be playing Crystal Palace, who is
Great
their
name, by the way.
great name. DC has some amazing names, but Crystal Palace is the only alive member of the Dead Boy Detectives and also the only female member. But she is their detective friend, I guess.
They're anchored to like the real world or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
But
I think it's a cool concept. Yeah,
it's definitely interesting. I will definitely give it a try. I love mystery type things as well. So
yeah, the detective aspect has me interested in it. Of,
exactly. Yeah,
chasing down clues.
They are not the only supernatural characters making waves. I hear that your girl is coming with a new story. Is that correct?
I'm pointing at her poster right now. Yes. Zatanna, the Jewel of the Gravesite. Now, I don't want to call myself a Zatanna expert by any means, but I will say I feel connected with the Zatanna online community of people who like her from comics, people who like her from the animated stuff. So she has a new young adult graphic novel coming out called The Jewel of the Gravesite. It's being written by Alice Arden and art by Jacqueline De Leon. At least from what I've seen from the online community, there are people who are happy because Zatanna is getting her own book, and there are people who are unhappy because of her look and because of what they feel like her attitudes are going to be in this book. Based on like the brief preview that we have, she's kind of like just the way that she's dressed and the way that she's kind of like, again, it's a young adult novel,
right?
There are people that have some concerns that she's just going to be like this, relevant to right now in this weekend, goes to Coachella and like takes Instagram pictures all over the place.
Right.
So people have that concern with her. And like I said, the other side of it, people are happy that Zatanna is getting something because she hasn't had her own book in a while. She's obviously very prominent in the Justice League Dark comics.
Right.
But I'm probably going to check it out because it is Zatanna, and anything that's Zatanna I'm going to look at instantly. And for those of you who don't know Zatanna, if maybe you haven't heard of her, she's a magician. Probably, I feel like one of the strongest Justice League members in DC. She's just great all around, I love her.
She's a phenomenal character, and I'm glad that she's getting her flowers. She's getting her time in the sun. And I don't understand the haters. I really don't, because it is
people
marketed.
Are going to hate it. Comic books, people are going to hate something.
Right.
Like,
it is marketed as a young adult novel, so she is not who we know. This is her before she has come into her own. So of course she may be a little bratty, but like, we were all bratty as as teenagers.
19, 20 years old, yeah.
It's a coming of age story. So yes, the character may start out like that, but I feel like by the end of the novel, we are going to see growth because that is how you tell a story. So like, I don't understand why people are upset about a story they have not even read. It's amazing to me. But I am looking forward to it. I like I said earlier about the Aqualad series, I love coming of age stories, so I'm definitely going to be checking this out. And I am like you, Zatanna is one of my all-time favorite heroes. I am a super geek when it comes to like magic-based characters. So she was literally one of the first DC characters that I fell in love with. So I may be biased, but
I love. She's so great, dude. Like,
she really is.
it goes back to what we were saying earlier of like the Zatanna show or book, the Aqualad show, the Dead Boy Detective show, anything. Not only with DC, but Marvel has some of these issues sometimes with Spider-Man, but DC has a big issue where they're only pushing Batman stuff.
Yeah.
Superman, Wonder Woman. Anytime something gets announced that is not, Batman, basically, we should be supporting it because it'll show DC, it'll show Warner Brothers, it'll show Discovery, like, hey, we want more of these characters who aren't, Batman, who are the Bat family, and they should, So when this got announced, like I said, people were upset of it, but it's one of those things where it's like we should support it so we can get more projects that are different characters, and maybe if this book does well, which it comes out on June 26th, shout out. We should be supporting it because if it does well, maybe we'll get an actual Zatanna run, a solo run, where she's not just in the Justice League Dark. Which,
or
if you haven't read Justice League Dark, you need to.
Of Young Justice.
Yeah, it's just. So I'm excited for it. Anything that's not Batman, and especially if it's Zatanna, I'm 100% all for.
It's not Batman. So. It's not Peacemaker. Go check it out.
Oh my God. I swear to God, it's. So yeah, that'll be coming out. Make sure you guys go support anything that's not Batman. We can get more of that, but. Like we said, DC has a lot of stuff, exciting projects coming out with TV, with movies, which we'll get to in a second, because there's a lot happening with the movies. But of course, the comics. Sometimes these projects are chosen by the fans. Another controversial, if you want to call it, event happening right now is DC Round Robin.
Not the controversy.
It has kicked off. The final four have been chosen.
This is true. So we have our final four of this year's DC Round Robin. If you're not familiar with the Round Robin, this is the same, tournament that brought us the Robins last year. So our final four contenders, I'll just run off who we have and a quick synopsis of each, and then we'll kind of discuss it from there. But our first contender. Who is
contester?
That? That's not a word. Hello.
Contester, really.
Our first contender is Constantine and the Demon: Vacation from Hell. This will be written by Frank Allen with art by Nick Varela. The synopsis is Arcane Gal meets Hellish Fury. John Constantine is forced to play host to Etrigan the Demon, and the pair embark on a deeply personal and potentially apocalyptic mission. Journeying back home to Liverpool, Constantine must confront ghosts from his past, and Etrigan isn't exactly his first choice for an ally. That could be an interesting...
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that could be an interesting story. I'm fans of Constantine and Etrigan, more so Constantine. But
more magic stuff. Yeah.
More magic stuff, So I wouldn't be opposed to that one being made. I cannot say the same for the next contender, which is Suicide Squad Dark.
Which I feel like is going to win, by the way.
That's all
Looking
I can do
at
is
the fans
sigh,
online voting.
that's all I can do is sigh. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But Suicide Squad Dark, written by Zach Thompson with art by Gary Brown. In the Suicide Squad, why can't I say squad? Hello. In this series,
it's been a long week.
It has been a long week. A team of occult misfits and monsters assembled by Amanda Waller and led by Vampire Batman are forced into a mind-melting suicide mission to assassinate Earth 13's League of Shadows. Now, I enjoy the Suicide Squad stories. I really do. Where I draw the line. Where I draw the line is Vampire Batman. What in the absolute... You know what?
I think it's going to win because the Suicide Squad got a lot of praise last year at the movie. Mm-hmm. It has Batman in it. Zatanna is in it, by the way. Yeah. So, but I think it's going to win because of those two reasons.
I really hope people can see beyond Vampire. I really hope people can see the absurdity of Vampire Batman. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Like, maybe if it does win and I read it, I can understand. But I just don't understand, Our next contender is Green Lantern: Light at the End of Forever, written by C. Spurrier with art by Marco Centuto. Santucci. In this one, a dark, far future, a galaxy gripped by tyranny, when an elderly farmer in a backwater system is brutalized by the latest thugs with jetpacks and jackboots to call themselves lawmen, he remembers a forgotten past, an era of champions, a cadre of noble peacekeepers long since vanished. His name? He's sure of it, is John Stewart. Whatever happened to the Green Lantern Corps, and is it too late to reignite the light? Now, I said I'm a big fan of magic, but I'm an even bigger fan of Green Lantern. I'm really excited. I hope this story wins. It probably won't because people hate me, but
People hate Green Lantern, I'll tell you that much.
people love Vampire Batman.
Unnecessary hate, I should say. Green Lantern should not get the hate that it gets.
It really shouldn't. But I would lose my mind if this one wins because I'm always up for a good Green Lantern story. The apocalyptic future has been done so many times, but I feel like I won't care.
Especially John Stewart.
It's John Stewart, dog. Are you kidding me?
No how.
That was a lot of people's first Green Lantern from the.
That was mine.
Exactly. So
he was my favorite until Jessica came out.
Honestly, I can see that. I can see that. Jessica is really dope. But like he was the first Green Lantern for a lot of people. So I feel like putting him in a series that takes place in the far future, and then you kind of get, I hope you get some flashbacks to what happened to the Green Lantern Corps, like what's going on, why is he a farmer, did he retire or did everybody die, like I want to know the answers. And then finally we have Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow, written by Kenny Porter with art by Jahoni Lindsay. Determined to find his place in a strange universe, Connor Kent, Superboy, leaves Earth behind. But his journey of self-discovery brings him face to face with a group of freedom fighters who challenge not just everything Connor stands for, but what it means to bear the Superman crest. It seems like a pretty cut and dry Superman story.
So I'll say this. I know we kind of briefly talked about each one. I'll say this. Unfortunately, I feel like Superboy is going to get last in voting. I think with the order is going to go Suicide Squad Dark, number 1. Constantine's probably going to get number 2. Green Lantern 3, Superboy 4.
I can agree to that. As much as I want Green Lantern to win, I can agree to that order of things just because Suicide Squad is, it's one of the things DC has been pushing lately, of course. So a lot of people are familiar with that property.
Is Peacemaker confirmed to be in this Suicide Squad Dark?
Vampire Peacemaker. No, I don't. No, I don't know. I don't.
I assume he's going to be in it. Like
possibly. Like I think they're just going to combine the elements of Suicide Squad and Justice League Dark and call it a day. Which I'm not opposed to reading. Like like I said earlier, I don't really care for the whole vampire Batman aspect, but I feel like there's enough material and enough people in the Suicide Squad and Justice League Dark to meld them together and create a fantastic story. So if it does win, I'll read it, I'll check it out. I'm so not on board with Vampire Batman, but I'll check it out. Constantine, another kind of well-known thanks to his series and also his stint on DC's Legends. So people are kind of familiar with this character outside of comics as well. So he's got his name value. Like I said, Green Lantern's been around for forever, but they have not really done a lot with John Stewart in recent years outside of the comics. So I don't think he has the name power to pull him into the front ranks. Yeah. And then, like I said, Superboy, it just sounds like a cut and dry Superman story. I feel like we've, kind of seen that story in the past. They may take a new take on it. Of course, these are all fantastic writers and fantastic artists. So, of course, whatever they do is going to be, it's going to be original. But I don't think this synopsis sold the story to me personally, the way
Yeah.
they intended to sell it. So I can definitely agree to your order.
Yeah, I think going to what I said earlier of a controversial event. This event is it was controversial last year and it's controversial this year because, and I kind of agree with what some people are saying is DC. I think it started off with 16, but even going back to last year, there was a lot of great concepts for characters that we don't normally see. I think one of the big thing people were upset with last year is Robin's eventually won, of course, because it's Robin's.
Of course.
In the first round, they put Robins against Justice League. I think they were called JLQ, Justice League Queer, which had a bunch of LGBT characters. And so people were upset of like DC was setting up those type of stories to fail by putting them against Robins and Bat Family characters and stuff. And with this year, the issue people have with it is all of these stories could be great pitches, like could be great. And people have kind of pitched ideas of like, okay, well, whoever gets knocked out in the first round, they'll get like a one shot. Whoever makes it to the second round gets like 2 issues or full issue, something like that. So like that way, all these pitches still get made.
Yeah.
And then the winner can have their full 12-month run, whatever the case is, because people didn't know like, oh, are these creators getting paid for these pitches? These are great characters that we should see more often. And so I agree that, if a pitch gets knocked out in the first round, then give them a one-shot issue.
Yeah.
That'll become
at
cool.
least let us see.
Let us see something.
And
then as they make it further in the rounds, and obviously they'll get a 3-month run, a 6-month run, however they want to do it. I think would be great for this kind of thing. But they did announce they're going to bring back one of their pitches from last year, which was a Blue Beetle one.
Oh yeah.
So maybe they are going to start considering something like that.
I hope so, because like I said, all of these sound like good stories. I might be biased because I know Green Lantern's going to lose. I just want to see the story, even if it's a condensed story of what they originally intended, I want to see it. So I can see the controversy because, like reading over a lot of the information when this year first started, I was like, some of these stories would be interesting. And then, they got knocked out immediately. So I definitely see what you're saying and where that controversy could come from. But here's to everyone watching. Go vote Green Lantern so it can win. Thank you. Yes.
I think you can vote on Twitter and on Instagram, pretty much all their social media sites, and on the DC app as well, or DC Universe Infinite app.
Yes.
Personally, I'd be looking forward. I think Green Lantern would be a great concept as well. I think Vampire Batman kind of has me turned off a little bit to Suicide Squad, but I've always been a fan of Suicide Squad as a concept. Yeah. Like when I first learned them back in the day of like, these villains get hired by the U.S. government to like get life years off their sentence. I think that's an amazing concept. And them trying to combine them with Justice League Dark, which is one of my favorite runs right now of like putting those together. I think that's cool. I just think unfortunately we're going to get a push of this is Batman, this is Peacemaker, and that's kind of it. You know? So.
Oh, I hope not.
But that kind of goes into the larger thing of what we've been teasing so far. So this month, DC. Warner Brothers, I should say, finished its merger with Discovery. And if you guys weren't aware, the last few years, DC and the Warner Brother brand has been under AT&T. AT&T is a phone company. So when they bought Warner Brothers, I was like, what the fuck is this phone company buying Warner Brothers? And before that, Warner Brothers was its own thing. And so the last few years, obviously AT&T, there was a lot of changes that they made with layoffs, and obviously that influences some of the movie stuff that got made and comics and this and that. But I would say the biggest mistake AT&T made and Warner Brothers at the top is they, speaking in business terms here, right? Very, very boring business terms. DC got turned into a horizontal property. And what that means is there was DC stuff everywhere, but nothing was connected. Exactly. So there was stuff on Titans, there was stuff on CW, the comics are doing something over here, and the movies are doing this, and everything was all over the place. And so now that Discovery has Warner Brothers and DC, there was a very interesting article that came out that the headline of the article was from Variety. It says, Warner Brothers Discovery exploring an overhaul of DC entertainment. Now, a very important part of this They talked about how characters like Superman were left out to the side and that Superman should be highlighted.
True.
They talked about how, like I said, DC was horizontally integrated. They want to make DC vertically integrated. And what that means is, think of something like Marvel Studios, where everything Marvel does is under one kind of brand. And based on this article, it seems to be that they're going to do the same thing and possibly spin off into a DC Studios, something like that. But they're looking for an overhaul of how they're going to move forward. And I think that would be great because they can use the comic books as a feeding ground, essentially. Maybe the comic books don't make as much money as the movies, of course, but that'll be a feeding ground. It's a feeding into television, into games, into movies and stuff like that. So it's promising hope. It's cautiously optimistic hope with this. Again, you know, corporations doing corporations, people are going to get billions of dollars. But for us fans, I think this is going to be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
yes. I'm very optimistic as well, cautiously. But like, I do hope they get it together because you know, every other day there's a story about something else that has fallen apart, something else that is getting pushed back, and I feel like, yes, we shouldn't compare DC and Marvel, but like Marvel has cracked the code when it comes to these movies. They've been doing so for
which we do have Marvel news to talk about, by the way. There is Marvel stuff to talk about. Don't worry. But
Marvel has been doing these movies spectacularly for over a decade. Yes, you may not have vibe with every single film, but you cannot deny that they have all made money. They have all been blockbusters. They have all showcased these heroes that you probably did not hear of before them. Who was talking about Iron Man before these movies? Like, come on. So if DC can get it together, if they can, because they have so many knowable characters, so many characters that they have so many characters that have these backstories that so many people can relate to.
The potential is
they're not doing the right things. They're pulling stories out of their ass. They're just, it's a cluster. And then, you know, they're trying to fix it, which we'll get into in a second with this Flash movie. But even that is a disaster. So if they can figure it out with this merger, if they can start putting out the content that I know that they can, I will be one happy person, you know?
I mean, and this kind of stuff is important because it's just corporations, you know, getting bigger corporations.
Yeah, but the rich get richer.
It's important because there's some very important quotes in here that the new CEO says. He talks about how they want to look for someone to kind of oversee the DC brand that's similar to Kevin Feige with Marvel. There's something in here that says they believe that the success of the merger will rest in no small part on unlocking the full potential of the DC Comics universe of characters. They said that recently DC lacks a coherent creative and brand strategy. And that kind of stuff is important because it affects movies, it affects TV shows, it affects the comics, it affects everything. And so as a fan of this kind of stuff, unfortunately, we are like, you know, at the mercy of these corporate overlords. So we hope that this stuff does well because not only does it mean good for DC, but it means good for comics overall. You know, everyone wants to see comics do well, and you know, with this kind of stuff, it affects comics. Maybe we won't get 37 Batman books that are, you know, like, or
Vampire Batman, God forbid.
So it'll be an interesting approach of what they take. I'm guessing we'll get more news. It might take a year or two to get kind of these creative things in place. I think their first priority, I agree with them that they need to get someone who oversees DC as a whole. People will say it's copying Marvel, but Marvel is successful for a reason. They have someone like Kevin Feige, who is a nerd of the comics, who knows all this stuff, who also is very talented in production. And it's been a mess the last few years to be a DC fan.
It's been a mess ever since the whole Snyder debacle. And like I get the whole Snyderverse. Like we're not going to talk about that, but we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, like we said this in the first episode, I enjoyed the Snyder stuff for what it was, but they weren't the choices I would have made to start a universe.
Yeah, exactly. Like I enjoyed it, but and like I feel like if they would have just left it, like let him do his thing, maybe that universe could have been fleshed out a little more. But they tried to do too many different things, butchered his movie. We didn't really understand what was going on, and it just has not been the same since.
Do you remember what it was like being a DC fan between like 2015, 2018? Like when Batman v Superman was coming out, when the first Justice League theatrical cut came out, like it was people just wanted to clown on you,
Exactly.
and it sucked, like because these are characters that we love and we want to see do well, and like I've mentioned this before, I enjoy the Marvel stuff and I go watch those movies on opening night and I check out some of the comics and I enjoy that, but my heart is in DC, so it
Yeah,
sucks to be like, man, like when I watch a Disney Plus show, like fuck, this could have been some cool like B tier DC character that if they had built up everything, it's so
exactly.
I'm hopeful for this. I hope it leads to things down the way, and it sucks that the DC movies are what they are now, and going into what we're gonna talk about with Flash, but it's like Aquaman made $1 billion, but then like Batman v Superman sucked, like
Right.
in terms of the money that it made,
Yeah.
and so like it's at a weird spot right now where there's movies that are coming out that are part of the DCEU. There's movies like that are Batman that are in their own universe.
It's
There's stuff like Batgirl that's on only on HBO Max that's bringing back like
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton is also going to be in the Flash movie. It's like everything's all up in the air. We don't know what's happening. But
It's a
speaking of the
mess.
Flash, I was gonna say, speaking of the Flash movie. So, if you haven't been around the last couple weeks, it's been a mess. The Flash movie has been a mess from the very beginning. It had change of directors, change of writers, and before going into this, no matter what you think about Ezra Miller, they did come out recently and say that they use they them pronouns. So if you think it's not important to refer to someone's pronouns correctly, obviously Ezra is a celebrity. They have millions of dollars. Think about what you want to think about them. But it's important to relate to someone's or to refer to someone's pronouns correctly for other people who maybe are going through their identity, what their gender is, and everything like that. And they see like, okay, people are referring to people's pronouns correctly, and maybe those people will feel less afraid to come out with their correct pronouns. So no matter what you think about Ezra's actions, it's not right to refer to the pronouns incorrectly.
Correct.
Now, with that being said, what are we doing, Ezra? What are we doing in Hawaii?
What's going on?
Ezra has been arrested twice in the last month in Hawaii. I pulled up the article real quick because I'm not a lawyer. I wasn't there in this situation. Obviously, there's going to be three sides to a story: Ezra's side, the other side, and the full truth. But in case you didn't know, I just had it up. So the police report stated that Ezra became agitated by a group of patrons in a Hawaii bar who were singing karaoke. The actor allegedly shouted obscenities at the group and snatched a microphone from a 23-year-old woman while she was singing. Ezra is also accused of lunging at a man who was playing darts and was arrested and charged on both counts before being released on $500 bail. On March 29th, that couple, or a local couple, filed a restraining order against Ezra, alleging that after the arrest at the bar, Ezra burst into their bedroom and threatened them.
Oh my goodness.
In the report, Ezra claims, or it's accused that Ezra told the man, "I will bury you and your slut wife,"
Oh my god.
stole the man's wallet, and that had a bunch of information in there. And Warner Brothers reportedly had an emergency meeting a week or so after, like determining Ezra's future with the franchise. And the Flash movie already had a bunch of issues leading up to this. Like I said, changes and delays. So now it's like,
Will we ever see this movie?
it's like, what are we doing, Ezra? Like, I
Yeah.
understand. Again, I wasn't there in that bar. I don't know what they were saying. But when
Exactly.
you're an actor, obviously actors are held to a higher standard. It's just, I don't know, man. Like,
I don't know.
it sucks because you want to see actors do well, and especially with the DC franchise, and
Exactly.
it sucks, you know?
And I have been a fan of Ezra Miller ever since the Wallflowers movie. I fucking love that movie. So it is a little disheartening to see everything that's going on. We do hope, whatever's going on, they get the help that they need if they
Yeah.
need it. But it does bring into question, like, like I said, will we ever see this movie? Because it's already gone through so many delays, so many overhauls.
Rewrites.
This is supposed to be the movie that is supposed to, retcon the mess that we spoke about like a minute ago. Like DC's everything is a mess right now, and this was supposed to be the movie that kind of cleans the slate. And now it's like, are we even going to get this movie? And if we don't get this movie, what's the plan? Where do we go from here? And how do you even release the movie when all this stuff is ongoing? Like, my headcanon,
Published writer headcanon, brain canon. Here we go.
my headcanon is that they're going to, find a way to get a new Flash, get a new actor. They're going to reshoot the ending. All of this discombobulation goes on, and at the end, he comes out of the whatever Flash portal and is like, I look different. And then
I look different.
I look different. And then so he's going to be the new Flash. In whatever other properties they use the Flash in. So they're going to dismiss Ezra, as they've been dismissing a lot of actors and actresses recently. Because Ezra's, not the only one going through legal trouble right now. With Amber Heard and Johnny Depp going through their...
That's ongoing.
their ongoing situation as well.
It makes me think about, too, these kind of situations of, like, what's the press tour going to be like? You know? Because they got to go to interviews. So I looked this up. The Flash comes out on June 23rd, 2023. Mm-hmm. So they have over a year if they do want to change it. Yeah. But it's... I don't know, man.
I feel like there's not going to be. I feel like at this moment...
I think they're going to... It'll get put under the rug and then...
Yeah, at this moment, I feel like the only solution is to, like I said, reshoot the ending, hire somebody new, and just release the movie on HBO Max, call it a day, and then do a proper Flash movie with whoever they recast. But I don't think that this movie can come out as intended. They're going to have to do reshoots. If we didn't have the
DC mess, this would have came out like 6 years ago.
It would have came out 6 years ago. But I feel like they're going to find a way to just release the movie and be done with it. I don't think that they're going to continue to bring Ezra along, unfortunately. And who knows? They might redeem themselves. They've got a year to turn things around. So who knows? I mean, it's not like Robert Downey Jr. was, a stand-up guy before he became Iron Man. So
the difference is, though, social media wasn't what it was back then.
It definitely was not. But these people, at the end of the day, are still people. So, like I said, I do hope Ezra gets the help that they need, and if they can find a way to salvage it, I do hope that they salvage it. This movie, I want to see it. I want to see what they put the work into. I want to see what DC's plan was to bring
what their plan is.
these movies and these universes together. Because this movie, of course, was going to be integral to their design moving forward. So I don't believe they're going to just disappear the movie because they've already spent God knows how much money on it. But I definitely think we may be seeing a direct to HBO Max, which, they already have Batgirl going direct to HBO Max.
Well,
so
it goes into what we said of, like, with this happening and now with the Discovery merger, does Discovery come in and look at this like, okay, now we need to change it, or do they let it ride?
Yeah.
And I think what the most realistic situation that happens is, again, this doesn't come out until next year in June. I think because of that time, Ezra will go quiet for a while. Maybe Ezra will come out some type of apology thing. Something's going to happen, and I think they're just going to let it roll, and this movie's going to come out how it is. And unfortunately, the general audience is very forgetful. And
this is also true.
It's just going to come out. Maybe this news will resurface next year with the press tour and everything like that, but I think they're just going to release it as it is.
Yeah, I'm sure this news is it'll die down. Like, of course, everything is still fresh. So, like you said, they just need to take
Go
a
quiet
step
for a
out of
while.
the limelight for a second. Let the heat die down.
Also, we're in Hawaii. Like, what are we doing? You know, like
Exactly.
just hang out, just chill out.
Exactly. So like just take a breather. And hopefully we do see this movie in the light of day.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think it's going to be the original movie that we were supposed to see a year or two ago, but I hope it's worth the wait. I hope it is worth everything that has happened, all the production
Yeah.
delays and all this, that, and the other.
So that's our big DC Discovery news. There's a lot happening. A lot's going to change. I'm cautiously optimistic, hopeful.
Exactly.
We have last piece of DC news before we get into Marvel news.
This is true. So we do have a lot of DC properties with multiple delays going on, like we've spoke about, and then we spoke about in our previous episode how a lot of their movies, a lot of other movies, has also been delayed. But there is one property that is abducting the spotlight.
All right.
I'm gonna hold for applause.
All right.
You see what I did there?
There's
Because
some joke in there.
they're aliens. Because they abduct. You had to be there.
No, I got it. But I don't know if, you know.
You had to be there. You had to be there.
By the definition of a term, it was a joke, but it was...
It was a joke, you know. It was
was
like
a joke.
ha ha ha. Like I'm laughing. Anyway,
But yes, Wonder Twins.
the upcoming HBO Max series, The Wonder Twins, has finally found their lead roles. We have KJ Appa, who is of Riverdale fame.
Shout out to Riverdale.
Riverdale, and we also have oh my goodness,
Isabel May.
Isabel May, who will be KJ Appa's twin. So I do.
This is whitewashing. I'm going to say it right now.
This is very much whitewashing. There's not an easy way to say it. KJ Appa, I feel like, is a good actor. I am ashamed to say that I did watch some of the earlier seasons of Riverdale.
Listen, you can say you watch Riverdale for research of this show, because technically Riverdale is from the Archie comics. So
Exactly. So I was just researching years in advance,
years ahead of time.
before I really even met Damien.
Yeah.
I was just researching for this episode in particular. I'm not familiar with Isabel May. They were in a movie called 1883, which I did not get around to watching. But like Damien said, this is kind of murky water.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there's a lot of white characters, and we were just mentioning earlier, like DC does a good job of showing non-white characters.
They do.
And so,
And then
this
they
thing,
announced a
it's like,
series of racially ambiguous non-white characters, and then they cast 2 white people.
So like just for some background, like Wonder Twins was introduced in the Super Friends show.
Right, season
What, in,
2
like,
in
the 70s?
1977, and they were introduced to be racially ambiguous. So if you go back and watch those cartoons, you know, you might see you
They
clearly,
were brown.
You
We'll say
clearly
that much.
see
They were
that they
brown.
were darker than, you know, Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman and all these other characters. They were meant to be non-white. And so when you come in and you create these series of these, I'll say not as well known, because, you know, the Super Friends was a long time ago, and they've had their comics here and there, but definitely they haven't been, you know, mainstay like a lot of DC properties. So I will say they are lesser known. But even so, every time you see them, they are racially ambiguous, meaning they are not white. So when you deliberately cast 2 white characters, it stings a bit. It stings a bit. But yeah, they've been around since 1977.
Yeah. And so the Wonder Twins, they're Zane and Jaina. Zane has his powers where he does is he water? He's the water one? I think he's the water one.
I believe he is shape
And
of
Jaina
water.
does shape of animals and stuff. Like E said, they were introduced in Super Friends. They were kind of a joke. They've always been kind of joked about over the years, but they had a very recent run in the last few years. The writer was Mark Russell, and the art was by Stephen Byrne. It was a 12-issue run. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was goofy, definitely goofy. But yeah, like you said, like they were definitely brown. And this is another one of those projects that DC announced, and it's like, are we gonna get news about it soon? Like, what's
And
who knows?
We did get news.
Who knows?
But yeah, I don't know. Like I do want to check out the series. I do like I like the zaniness of the Wonder Twins. So I am interested in them having their own series because it is good to see these lesser known characters, you know, getting their moment. But
Yeah.
the casting is just off. And, you know, no disrespect to KJ App and Isabel May. Like I said, KJ, I
sure
know
they're great
for
actors.
sure
I'm
is
sure
a
they're
good
great
actor.
people.
I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with Isabel May's work, but honestly, she's a working actress, so she's doing
I'm
something
sure,
right.
I'm sure they're amazing people. I'm sure they're great.
But
You know,
I
that's
just
no
feel
problem
like
with
this project should have gone to non-white people. So that is unfortunate. We'll see where it goes from here. But yes, that is all we have for our DC news.
Clap it up for DC. Let's go.
Shout out to DC. A lot of news in these past weeks, but they are not the only company worth talking about. Damien has your Marvel news up next.
So Marvel, and I'll say this: the reason why DC took up so much time is because of the fact that Marvel is already so uniform in their news. They're able to get their stuff out quickly. It's efficient, and there's not as much to talk about in terms of what needs to be fixed, like DC.
This is true.
So Marvel had a couple of announcements. They recently announced a new comic coming out called Out Avengers. That'll be coming out in September 2022. Looks like it's going to be written by an award-winning novelist named Derek Landy and art by Greg Land. You can think they're cousins, Land.
Probably
But the way it's going to work from what I saw is it's going to be it's just going to drop people in the middle of the action. It's not going to be like a bunch of setup or explanation. You'll just like open up the first page and they're in the action. And it looks like the first issue is going to have Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Blade, and Spider-Woman. So I'd be curious to see what their like plan is because, as we mentioned earlier, Marvel is kind of vertically integrated, so they use a lot of their comics to feed later adaptations. So it's just something to note of like, oh, you know, this is a cool kind of side thing that they're doing. I think it's a cool concept of just like, you know, dropping people in and they're in the action and here we go. So
pretty solid lineup as well. We still have not gotten a live adaptation of Spider-Woman, have we?
No, I think she's supposed to be in one of the Sony projects or something like that, but you know, Sony being Sony is
Sony be Sony, you know.
So yeah, that'll be coming out. Also in other comic news, so of course, you know, DC Dark Crisis is going to be having a crossover event, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But that's not going to be the only crossover event of this summer.
That is correct. We have Axe Judgment Day, or a.x.e. Judgment Day, which is Marvel's crossover event of the summer, coming out in July. So this is gearing up to be a pretty big story. We have a lot of heavy hitters. We have the Avengers and the X-Men and the Eternals, and they're going to be, I think, going up against each other. We have the Immortal X-Men kind of doing their thing, and the Avengers and the Eternals are already having some squabbles. So I feel like this is going to be a jam-packed, action-packed series. So we have part 1 coming out on July 6th. Part 2 is coming out on July 20th. And then the final part, which is titled Axe Death to the Mutants, comes out on July 27th. We also have some tie-in comics. Immortal X-Men number 5 dropping on July 13th. X-Men Red number 5 dropping on July 20th. X-Force number 30 and X-Men number 13 both dropping on July 27th. So like I said, it's gearing up to be a pretty big story. I am definitely interested. I love that Marvel has all of these different factions, and it's one thing that Marvel does well. They have all of these different factions, these different types of superhero or super being families. And so I am very much interested in seeing, all of those come to a head.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the X-Men as well. I'm not gonna lie, I have not heard. I know the Eternals have been around, but I have not heard much or read much of their lineage.
I still gotta watch the movie.
I did watch the movie. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. And of course, we all know the Avengers. But I'm really excited to see all of these different factions in one story going head to head. I feel like we are going to see an eruption of power, and it's going to change the Marvel universe for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I'm always gonna be biased as an X-Men fan, and be like, X-Men win. Like,
I mean, they're immortal now.
The X-Men are just so strong and so like. I think there's always that joke. I don't know if it's a joke or rumor or what, that fans have said that in the Civil War storyline, the original one, the X-Men opted out in that storyline because the writers were like, the X-Men are just too strong. Like, we can't have them in here. So yeah, I mean, it looks like a cool event. Like we mentioned this earlier, Marvel, they introduced obviously the Eternals with the movies, and now people at least know the Eternals as a name. And so if someone sees like, oh, Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals, maybe I'll check that out. You know, like they have it set up for people to check it out. So
yeah, I'm excited for it. I might have to dip into my comic book funds, but that is not we excuse me. We do have to wait on that one. Like I said, those stories will not be out until July, but there is something we can stop waiting for. We have finally gotten our first look at Thor: Love and Thunder. Damien, what were your thoughts?
Thor: Love and Thunder, when we were putting the information together for this episode, the trailer had not come out yet. Since then, the trailer has come out. If you have not watched our reaction to that teaser trailer, make sure you go watch it Press pause right now. Go watch it. It's like 3 minutes. Come back here.
Do it.
Okay, you're back. So
welcome back.
Leading up to the trailer, it had broken the record of like the shortest amount of time from when the movie's supposed to release to when the first trailer comes out. There had been some like promo material with posters and like Lego toys getting leaked and all that stuff like that. I loved the trailer. It's been a few days since the trailer has come out and I've watched it. So since then, we've got some confirmation of like, okay, yes, those were the Greek gods. That was Olympus.
True.
I didn't know this because I didn't know much about Thor's comics, but obviously I always thought that Thor was just Norse mythology, but I guess there are points where he does go into the Greek mythology side of it.
Yeah. Like
so there was Olympus that we saw. Yeah, there was Zeus. And one of my first thoughts, this is my DC brain, I was like, man, Marvel is about to do Olympus with Thor before DC does it with Diana. Wonder Woman.
But we may see Olympus in the Wonder Woman video game coming to us not soon.
But in any case, I loved it. I went back and watched it. Jane was fucking buff in that trailer,
bro,
dude. I don't know if
I am
she's
so
fucking
excited.
yo. It's crazy.
I really love her design is so spot on.
I just love strong women.
I am so happy about the way she turned out. I'm glad they didn't throw away the character like it looked like they were about to when the previous movie dropped. I'm so glad she's back. And I wonder, if they're going to like tie it into Captain America: Winter Soldier, because they do interact in the comics as well. But I'm really excited for it. I am really excited for this movie, and I want
like
to
how
know.
You just said interact like it wasn't,
Yeah.
Yeah, they interact. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. A little smooch, a little. But I wonder if this movie is going to have any bigger implications, and that is why we had to wait so long, because as you know, we have Moon Knight going on right now, and Moon Knight is very heavy into the Egyptian lore, the Egyptian deities. So and of course, one of the main villains in Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be the God Killer, which we actually did not get to see in the trailer, which was interesting.
I wonder if they'll release another trailer before that comes out. I would assume so, right?
I would assume so. Movies tend to have at least 2 to 3 trailers, but also this trailer did not come out until like just now, so
Yeah.
who knows?
I think they'll have like this as a teaser and then one official trailer where we get like a brief, like at the end of the trailer, here's Gore's face, and then that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see more of the movie before it comes out.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see Gore, and my head canon is telling me that Gore is going to have something. I feel like Gore is going to stick around, and I feel like
Yeah.
in this phase of the Marvel movies in the back half of Phase 4, or maybe even prolong it to Phase 5, we're going to see more gods coming into the picture, because we already have the Eternals showing up. I feel like in Black Panther 2 we may get another look at Bast, and then of course, like I said, with Moon Knight we have Khonshu and Ahmed and all these other gods popping up. So I feel like they have introduced a lot of gods as of recently, and to have this character called the God Butcher showing up in Thor Love and Thunder, I feel like we're about to get knocked out with a
Yeah.
whole lot of new information, and I could be just making it this all up, hyping it up for no reason, but I'm excited for it.
Well, that's the thing, because we don't really know what this phase is building to. Like,
That's
we don't know
true.
when there's going to be a next Avengers movie. I think Doctor Strange is going to answer some of that with the Illuminati and stuff.
Yeah.
Because obviously the pandemic, messed things up, and things are coming out than different original release dates.
True.
So I don't know. I would assume, because I saw people talk about it online, like with the stuff with Olympus, I think it's going to be not a quick thing, but like not the main thing.
Yeah.
Because people are saying that like they're going to be chasing Gore down because maybe he killed Hercules or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited for it. It looks dope. I'm gonna go see it opening day. I gotta buy my tickets whenever they drop and everything. And what's the release date for that again? It was July, right? Or
It is going to be.
July 8th, 2022.
That is correct.
So what day is July 4th is on a Monday. I'm gonna get like 5 days off. Let's go.
Not 5 days off. Not you taking the whole week off for Thor.
Well, because work gives us extra days off for like 4th of July. So.
No, like.
But yeah, Thor's coming out. Jane looks dope. Are we gonna get Beta Ray Bill? Who knows?
Who knows?
Bring his horse face around. But yeah, as E mentioned, have Moon Knight going on right now. So we haven't talked about Moon Knight in this episode because we do have a weekly review.
I'm telling you, next
with
week.
our good friend
Next week.
Ghostly Amethyst. If you guys haven't watched those, make sure you go check them out. A lot of fun.
Yes.
Our motto now is next week for this show because
Next week. Moon Knight. I'm telling you, they're going. This is the one. I'm telling you.
yeah.
If I'm wrong,
So
I'm not wrong. Okay.
but yeah, go check out our Moon Knight videos if you haven't. But yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff we wanted to talk about. There was some stuff that we haven't talked about yet because it's still kind of happening, like with Trial of the Amazons. Death of the Justice League is coming out next week, which will lead into Dark Crisis. So no news has come out about that
looking
stuff
forward
yet.
to
But that'll be coming out. So anything else you want to go over, E, before we get this wrapped up?
No, I think we hit all the points. I'm really looking forward to everything that HBO Max and DC have coming out. I really do hope this merger does kind of pull into focus what the DC universe could be. But we've been waiting for them to get their act together for over a decade now. And honestly, I'm optimistic, but like I'm tired. So I'm also really, really, really looking forward to Axe Judgment Day. I feel like that crossover event is going
That'll
to
be really
be
cool.
huge.
The art was cool too. They released for it.
True.
Like the cover art. That was cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got a lot of heat coming in this summer. We talked about the Pride stuff coming up in June in our previous episode. So this summer is going to be jam packed, and I am looking forward to every second of it.
Free Comic Book Day is also coming up on May 7th.
True.
So make sure you guys go to your local comic shop. Of course, get the free comic book, but also buy something, support them.
Yeah.
And as E mentioned at the start of this, thank you guys for supporting us. I put a tweet up the other day of we just passed 500 views on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys for that. Making this content has been some of the happiest I've been in making content in a long time. Not to say that I've been unhappy, but
It's
comic
because
books
I'm
have
here
always
with
been.
you. I
Yeah,
understand.
well, yeah, because E's with me, you know.
I'll hold your hand, Damien. It's okay.
Yeah, because like when I've made like when I do my streams in the past, or even my own personal YouTube that I've done stuff like, and I've had people who I've like talked about comic book stuff, but being able to share that with people and having people interact with it and talk about it, like it's been a lot of fun. And I think we started this YouTube channel at a perfect time because the last year or two, a lot of comic book news was like delayed or put on hold.
Just the news was everything's delayed.
Yeah.
That
And
was
so
the
now
news.
with this year, like the vaccines coming out and everything getting lifted, all this news is coming out, all these shows are coming out, all these movies are coming out, which quick side note, Doctor Strange, we have something fun planned. I think we can make it work. So for a video. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But there's just a lot of back-to-back news coming out in the comic book world, and I'm very excited for it. It's a good time to be a comic book fan, whether you're brand new, whether you're some super nerd veteran like me and E. So it's a good time.
Yes. Huh?
Well, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys for watching. We are going to be recording, back regularly our main show. The last few weeks we were just, I was out in Hawaii, and then we were recording our weekly Moon Knight and Young Justice videos. So we'll be getting back to like at least every 2 weeks, if not, or at least at the most 3 weeks, 2 weeks, somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. We're going to figure this out. Our upload for the main show.
You
But
sounded very confident.
we're going to get back to it basically because there's a lot of news happening. But E,
Yes.
thank you for joining me.
Of
Thank you guys for
course.
watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. And we'll see you next week for Moon Knight episode 5 and Young Justice episode
Telling
20.
you, that's the one. Episode 5, Moon Knight. This week. This is the week. This
We'll
is the
see.
week.
We'll see.
This is the week.
All right.
Mark my words.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.